Hi and welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Rebecca and this is the mid-year book freakout tag. Alrighty, so I've never done this tag before. I've watched this particular tag for honestly probably 2 or 3 years now. And most of the time in the past I just had been speed reading through my books, and I wasn't necessarily reading things that I enjoyed, but just what was popular, so I never really felt, the feeling to do this. But this year I've read a lot of books that I've really enjoyed, a few that, I wish I had enjoyed, and have a lot that I'm excited about. So let's get started. So the first question is, what's the best book you've read so far? I don't have just one answer. I put 3 down. Honestly, I could probably put 5. But the 3 I wrote down are The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali, The Magical Language of Others by E.J. Koh, and Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko. All 3 of these books are very different. The first one, The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali, is a contemporary set in Iran, I believe, about this couple that meet in this stationery shop. They fall in love. And their government is in the midst of fighting off a coup, and the mailman character is very big into politics. The woman is, at the time she's actually a girl, and she is, trying to just be a good Iranian girl, and the stereotypes of that. I'd be like, I go to school, I listen to what my parents ask me to do, their dreams and ambitions become my dreams and ambitions, and so you just kind of follow the 2 of them as he challenges her to really think about what she wants and what she likes to do, while still, and he doesn't really ask her to question her parents too much, or their values, but more so saying your wants and needs are just as important as theirs. But they have a very tragic but beautiful love story. 10 out of 10 recommend. The Magical Language of Others by E.J. Koh is about E.J. Koh's actual life. Her parents moved from California back to Asia. I should have looked up what country it was. I want to say they're in China, but it could be Korea or Japan. I can't remember. But her dad moves back for a job opportunity. Her brother is in college. She's, I think, a sophomore in high school at this point. And her mom feels really bad because it's a short contract. I'm going to move with your dad, but we'll all be together soon. Well, her dad, being, super great at his job, that contract turns into years and years and years, and their daughter is going through, the most critical points of her life where she needs her parents. Her brother's there for her as much as he can be, but, he's her brother. He's not her mom or her dad. And so you just kind of, through a series of letters that her mother writes her, understand how her mom feels and why she made the choices she made, and then you also are following EJ through her life and the changes that have come about for her because of her parents are gone, challenges that she's run into, ways that she's found strength in herself, and just battling with a lot of feelings. And so that was a really incredibly moving book. And then this one is completely different than the other 2. Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko is a YA fantasy about a girl who is kept away in this house by her mother. She knows her mother is this strong, powerful woman, but she doesn't really know what she does. And just that other people kind of fear her. And the girl's kept away in this palace until she is brought to the king's court to become a part of the prince's court. In their magical system, your court stays together for its whole life. You come together as children. You have to pledge that you're willing to die for that prince, and you get this kind of blood bond together. Her mother, and this isn't a secret or anything, it's in the synopsis, her mother wants her to kill him, but she doesn't know that at first until she gets there. She doesn't know why everyone's looking at her ear with kind of this eerie feeling, and she does come to love the prince. You don't know if she loves him as brotherly love, or loves him as a, damn, I hate that there's 12 other people, I wish we could get together. But it's a wild adventure. It is a very good time, very fast read, and the sequel comes out later this year. And so the next question, speaking of sequels, is what's the best sequel you've read so far? And that for me was Always Only You by Chloe Leese. It's the second in the Bergman Brothers series, which is a romance series. I love it because there is all sorts of representation in it. Chloe Leese herself is autistic, and so she puts a little bit herself in the book. So one of the Bergman sisters, there's only two of them, the youngest one, I think her name was Izzy. She is autistic, and then in Always Only You, the heroine in that book is also autistic. But there's also rep for disability rep. One of the heroines in one of the books has a cane. There's a rep for the deaf community, which I have seen criticism about, because Chloe even admits this, that she didn't take enough time for sensitivity readers to see if some of the way her storyline was going would either be offensive or realistic and things like that. And I know with lots of, drama we've had around authors and points of inspiration for them, that we haven't always gotten the responses we wanted, but I really appreciated the way Chloe responded. The next question is, what's a new release you haven't read yet but want to? One I have started, but I haven't continued yet because I just haven't been in the headspace for it, and that's Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. This is a memoir of sorts, because it's her real life story. Her father was in prison basically almost her entire life. I think he got out when she was in her early 20s. She's only a few years older than me, I think. And I'm 30 now. I think she's like 32, 33. And the first chapter, you hear her mom calls her in the middle of her and her boyfriend having dinner, and is like, hey, I have to tell you something, and tells her that her dad's getting out of prison. I actually listened to the first chapter during an episode of the Book Riot podcast. They played the whole 18 minutes of the chapter. And then she had been on like another show of theirs that isn't on anymore, but they had looped it into the end of the episode. And so it's kind of like listening through that. And so it was very moving, very powerful. But I can already tell that a lot of the things that she experienced will hit home for me in a different way. And I don't know that I'm ready to open up some of those doors. So I'm putting that one on hold. And then the second one is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. He wrote The Silent Patient, which I read a few years ago when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. That book actually just got to me. It was in my mailbox waiting for me a couple days ago, and I just picked it up, but I haven't started reading it yet. Our book club here in Dallas is going to be reading it for our July meeting, so I think I'm going to wait until probably the first week of July to read it, which will also be great because it's a thriller, and I really want to participate in Summerween this year, which Olivia Reads a Latte and Gabby from Gabby Reads are hosting, and they're hosting it that first week of July, I think the 2nd through the 9th, whatever that Friday to Thursday time frame is, which would be perfect because our group isn't meeting until the week of the 15th, so that is one of the new releases that I haven't had a chance to read yet. And the next question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And it's funny because some of these are literally only 6 weeks away. So I'm very excited for Survive the Night by Riley Sager, which comes out June 29th. This one's about two people on a road trip together. This girl's leaving her college, I think, to go home for like a break, whether it's spring break, Christmas break, whatever, a break in the semester. And there has been a serial killer in that town. I can't remember if they believe that it's a student like from the school or someone just targeting students from the school, but she's pretty sure that she's getting in the car with the serial killer, but she can't prove it, and so you just kind of go along from there. I don't know if this is my most anticipated, but it Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. It is supposed to be a kind of Alexis from Schitt's Creek inspired main character, small town in like Maine or something, on this island that her family used to own, like a bed and breakfast there or something. It used to own some sort of thing there that she's going to go work at. she meets this gruff man on the island, because there's always a gruff man on the island. The reason I say it's not one of my most anticipated is because it's by Tessa Bailey. I have had such hit or miss experiences with her books, and I think this one's going to be the one where I decide whether, like, she's a pass for me and I just don't pick anything up from her again, or if I'm, this will turn it around and I'm willing to give it a shot. We'll see. And then the last one is also not necessarily most anticipated, but like an author that I just kind of pick up because I enjoy their thrillers, and that's Not a Happy Family by Shari LaPena. It's about these husband and wife. They get murdered. I think it's like on Easter weekend. Their 3 grown children are in town that weekend. They just had dinner with their parents, and then their parents are murdered, and you're trying to figure out, the kids seem to be mourning. Are they actually sad? They're about to inherit a shit ton of money. It feels kind of Menendez Brothers inspired. I don't know for sure yet. I haven't seen that specifically, but just reading that storyline kind of made me think that. So we'll see. I hope I enjoy those last 2. But we'll see what happens. Oh, you know what? Redemptor by Jordan Ufeko comes out August 17th, and that is the most anticipated for me because I really enjoyed Raybearer. My biggest disappointment this year. Well, see, I wasn't really looking forward to either of these 2 books, but I hoped that I would enjoy them, and that is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, which came out in like January or February and was a Jane Eyre inspired Southern mystery. It was fine, but it wasn't great. I think I gave it 2.5 or 3 stars. It had a lot of potential, but it wasn't great. Oh, I wanted to make a distinction. It's not the same Rachel Hawkins that wrote the Her Royal Highness book in series, which I have on my TBR actually. I haven't read any of them yet, but I actually kind of had a pause thinking like, oh no, like I really hated this book. Am I going to hate the series? Different Rachel Hawkins. And then the other one was The Wrong Family by Taryn Fisher. She wrote one, The Something Wife, let me see. I just remember this being a book that Kat from Paperback Dreams and Cindy from Read with Cindy roasted appropriately because that book was garbage. The Wives. Oh my god, that book was so bad. Every bad trope about like women in thrillers that normally you expect from like shitty male thriller writers, a woman wrote, and you're like, ma'am, could you not? She kind of did the same thing again in The Wrong Family by Taryn Fisher. It was about a family that was being watched by this homeless woman who used to be a psychiatrist, I think. And she befriends the son. At one point is living in their basement. It gets very weird. I will say at the very least it was kind of entertaining, whereas The Wives was not. So I mean there was that, but like overall it was still a 2-star read. Like, it was not a good time. My biggest surprise this year, and I still can't believe I read it this year, but January was an eternity ago. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Even while I was reading it, I thought I wasn't gonna like it because I didn't love the way the main character, whose name I forgot, what is her name? Oh, why can't I think of her name? All I can think is Strawberry Shortcake because her family owns that strawberry farm, and the guy calls her something related to that. Lucy Hutton and Joshua Templeman. In the beginning, Lucy's vibe is very like passive-aggressive 16-year-old, and I didn't really enjoy that, and it kind of seemed like she had this like perceived hatred from Josh rather than actual hatred, so it wasn't the true enemies to lovers that I wanted it to be, but it wasn't bad either. But yeah, that was the biggest surprise for me because I just didn't think I was going to enjoy it, and I really did enjoy it. And then favorite new author or that can be a debut author or new to you is going to go to Chloe Leese and Alicia Rye. Chloe Leese, like I said, wrote the Bergman Brothers series, which I think the 4th one she's working on, or maybe it's the 5th. I think it's the 4th one. I'm very excited for that to come out. And then Alicia Rye wrote The Right Swipe, and I can't think of it, First Comes Like, and that whole series, and I really enjoyed those as well, and that was the first Alicia Rye I had ever read. So both of those get the nod there. The next two questions I'm going to combine. It says in your newest fictional crush and your newest favorite character. I don't have fictional crushes. Like, no judgment to other people who do. Had you asked me when I was 15 and I was reading some things, heck yes, I had fictional crushes. But at 30, not so much. But my new favorite character, I'm just going to give the nod to the whole Bergman family. Love them. Love the parents. They're fantastic. The kids are wonderful. They make for great feel-good novels. So, really enjoy them. Last books that made you cry. Or at least from this year. I don't know if I truly cried through these, but I definitely remember having a couple moments of being really sad. The Magical Language of Others by E.J. Koh. And then Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore. That book has some trigger warnings around sexual trauma. A girl gets, she gets attacked. It's not on the page if I remember correctly. So you don't really know like, the full details, but she's younger. She gets in a truck with a guy on Valentine's Day evening. And then he drives her out to this middle of nowhere. They're in Midland, Texas, which is very like... Now there's, I mean, it's not Dallas or Austin, but it has some residential neighborhoods and stuff, but there's a lot of oil fields out there, and the setting here is that he drives her out to near his job site, and there's not really anyone around, attacks her. She wakes up at like dawn, basically, the morning after, and is clearly like beat up. I don't think she has shoes, and she walks away from the truck to this house that she can see kind of off in the distance, and basically begs these people to help her. And the story kind of goes on from there of like how the town responds to this attack. It's in the typical way that you would expect. It's not great. But that whole story and the women it centers in it, just like, it was excellent storytelling. It is an incredibly hard read. The last book that made you happy, Bonds of Brass by Emily Skrutsky. I really enjoyed. The best way I can explain it is YA gay Star Wars. It was a good time. It was a good time. The most beautiful book you've bought so far or received. I haven't really been buying books this year. Been doing a lot better with that, getting a lot from like the library or Scribd. But I'm gonna have to go with The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed, which I don't have in here, I don't think. I don't, so I'll put a picture of it up right here. But I really enjoyed that cover. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? So Redemptor by Jordan Afueko, which I talked about. It's a sequel to Raybearer. One that I just found out was coming out this year is All These Bodies by Kendare Blake. Kendare Blake wrote the Three Dark Crowns trilogy, which I really enjoyed. This one is more of a thriller, though, and I didn't know that this is something that they wrote, and it might be their first one. I haven't checked. But it's basically about there's what is assumed to be a serial killer, or maybe a more supernatural, magical realism situation going on, but all of these bloodless bodies are showing up in this town, and there's a kid whose dad happens to be the sheriff, who he wants to be a journalist, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, and the most recent family, or it's just, the issues just come to their town. A family dies, and then there's this girl found at the scene covered in blood, and she's the suspect. And so you just kind of follow along with him trying to figure out what's going on. And the last question is, favorite book to movie adaptation you've seen this year? I haven't seen any. I'm not really a big movie watcher. I used to be, but I don't really enjoy it. And when I do, I typically do not watch ones that are adaptations. They usually let me down. The only one I saw that I was kind of interested in was The Dry. I didn't actually read that book, but I did read The Survivors. I really enjoyed that book. And I want to read The Dry. So if I do any adaptations, it'll be that one. I don't know, there's something about her writing. It's set in Australia. It's very, it seems like she's kind of formulaic, but not in a bad way. I would say kind of like Ruth Ware. Like I feel like In a Dark Dark Wood, Woman in Cabin 10, and a couple all of her other books kind of have similar formulas, but they're very different settings. And I kind of get that vibe from Jane Harper. So I am excited to read some more from her. I forgot to say in the beginning talking about this, who created this tag. This tag's been around forever, but I looked it up. Ellie from Earl Grey Books, and then I don't know if it's Cami or Chammy, I'm so sorry. Her channel used to be Read Like Wildfire, but it seems like she's changed into more of a lifestyle blogger, and it's literally, the channel is just her name. But I'll link both of them below in the description box, just to kind of give them credit, obviously, for creating this tag. I talked for a lot longer than I expected to, but just wanted to share where I am mid-year. I think I've read 40 books at this point. Maybe it's up to 43. I'm behind in my reading goal. It says I should be farther ahead by like 13 books, which, yikes. Yeah, I've read 43. It says you're 13 books behind, so I have some catching up to do. And with that being said, I will see you all in another video soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.